anyways, we're very appreciative, and we understand that more people are watching this show than ever before. We're very thankful for the ESPN folks being very hospitable. Now, there are some people actively trying to sabotage us from within ESPN.
Is ESPN sabotaging Mr. McAfee, or is Pat McAfee just planting some seeds, calling out his boss, calling out this guy named Norby? Is he doing this because he wants to get fired from ESPN, or is he doing this right because he wants the contract to be completely revoked? Now, guys, I have talked about Pat McAfee and ESPN before, not that often, but enough to kind of tell you guys what I think is probably going to eventually happen and where the clash is going to occur. There are a few people out there, Sports Wars, Behind the Line, he's talked about this, and also, I want to say Black and White Sports, they've also discussed this as well. And they've all done a very good job at covering this entire thing. However, I'm going to look at this thing right here a little bit more. Let's just say I'm going to look at things from a different perspective. So make sure you guys stick around for the full video. Now, there's been a couple of videos that's come out the past week, me talking about Pat McAfee, the apology after the whole Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy Kimmel debacle. I'll leave those videos in the description box. But still, you're probably wondering at this point in time that this right here was bound to happen. And I'm here to explain how it was that we got to this situation. Now, before I go any further, before we start talking about ratings and McAfee's ratings and how it is that he claims he doesn't really care about that type of stuff, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys now. The Pat McAfee Show, if you do listen to the McAfee Show, is more of a buddy bro sports show. It runs on YouTube primarily. Of course, it's on ESPN now too. And of course, it does do stuff like sports betting. They talk about all kinds of crazy stuff related to sports. However, the show for the most part is football centered, which makes you think, when is this split going to occur? Now, me personally, I think if they split, it's probably going to be after the NFL draft. They're probably going to want McAfee around just long enough to cover that. There are some people who are saying probably before the start of the next NFL season. I don't know about that. I think they would at least give him until the NFL draft to see exactly where he's at when it comes to overall ratings, if people are actually watching his content. Now, what does the Pat McAfee Show appeal to? Mostly blue-collar sports fans. That right there is what it mostly appeals to. Guys like myself, guys like you guys out there watching the audience, and even though this channel has kind of pivoted away from sports, even though I do plan on creating my own sports channel someday, it's still the same exact thing. That channel, that show, typically tends to appeal to mainstream guys who just don't want politics or any BS put in their content, whereas ESPN is pretty much turned into BET. Really much of an overlap. Now, let me go ahead and say this right before we go to the actual clips and what was actually said. The McAfee Show, ESPN as a whole, Talking First Take, Pardon the Interruption, all the shows that are on that particular network. They typically get shown in bars. They typically get shown in restaurants, airports, of course, especially when you're not watching CNN or Fox News or whatever's on the tube in these locations. Oftentimes, little small local places. I know I mentioned restaurants just a second ago, but oftentimes ESPN is obviously playing, especially if it's a place where there's going to be a lot of males there. Typically, women don't tend to be that interested in sports, even though a lot more are coming around to it, but still, we may cover that at a later date. The thing is this right here. ESPN's audience also is predominantly, I got to say it, it's predominantly woke now. They've obviously gone in much, much more woke direction, and now Stephen A. Smith has broken off and formed his own little podcast, which I've already talked about in previous episodes of this content, saying that Stephen A. Smith at some point in time is going to want to leave ESPN because of the pay. The guy's getting a crap load of money. I don't see how the hell you can give him any more money and make him actually happy, but still at the same time, I mean, what is it? What's the old saying? You ask a rich man exactly how much money they need, they're just going to look at you and say just a little bit more. That's just the way that it works. I mean, let's not knocking the rich or anything here. We all want to make money. But still, the thing is this right here. Pat McAfee does not fit ESPN. He does not fit their mold. So when he comes out and basically tells you that, hey, look, before we go to ESPN Plus or before we go to YouTube, I need to say this stuff right here. That seems to me like he was trying to tell the audience that, yeah, I've got some crap off my chest. I got some crap I got to get off my chest. I got some things I got to say, whether it's correct or whether it's BS or not. You got to know that obviously this entire thing is big. Let's go ahead and roll this first segment.
Before we end our stream here on ESPN, head on to YouTube and ESPN Plus.
Hell yeah.
I would like to say that there's a ratings thing that's being released today about the amount of people that watch, on ESPN. From where we were to now, it feels like we won some people over on TV Wise.
Here we go.
But the amount of people that spend their time with us on ESPN, YouTube, TikTok,
Right.
ESPN Plus,
Right.
every single day is absurd.
Yeah.
So I'd like to say thank you all so much for following along with your sports world with us, for allowing us to be a part of your day, for allowing our stupidity to influence your life, and for taking a mental vacation with us. All we ever try to do is bring a little bit of happiness, a little bit of laugh, while bringing some comedic, informative stuff to the table. I think we do it good. I'm very proud of the team. I'm very proud of where we are, and I'm incredibly grateful on this glorious Feel Good Friday for everybody that has allowed us to do this for a living. So as we continue on YouTube and ESPN Plus and TikTok, thank you all so much. Have an incredible weekend. See you Tuesday. Monday. We were live on Monday.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Last week we were off on Monday.
They get it.
They
They'll
know.
know.
That probably got cut off anyway.
A good Tuesday either way.
Yeah. It's fascinating, this rating shit, AJ. Really is.
Yeah. Wait, well, how do they even do ratings now? How do you even collect?
We'll talk about the McAfee Show ratings here in a second, but there's something else that needs to be explained before we get into that. This way was not the segment that went viral. Okay, the New York Post, they have put out articles like, Pat McAfee's got to do better when it comes to ratings if he wants to get $85 million. Of course, the headaches, which of course he was alluding to, the article was what Aaron Rodgers' Tuesday appearances, where every now and again, Aaron will talk about conspiracies, or he'll talk about just little general things, book lists, stuff like that there. As a matter of fact, Aaron Rodgers has grown on a lot of people since, he was actually growing on a lot of people while he was in Green Bay. But of course, he's gotten more and more popular to the more working class crowd since then. However, he's also become much, much more hated amongst the woke crowd. We'll probably deal with that on that sports channel I plan on creating in the next few years. I want to see exactly how this man's career finally ends, seeing how it is. I'm a Packers fan and obviously watched this man for years. But even though I still love my team, I still keep up with him. And of course, he hasn't played this year. Got an Achilles injury. Of course, he got taken out 4 plays of the season. Still at the same time, though, ESPN is probably looking at this entire situation, and they're probably saying to themselves, you know what? Should we have given Pat McAfee $85 million? Now, Pat McAfee's contract that he was set to sign with FanDuel, the one that he turned down, was roughly about the same price. And my concern at the time was that Pat McAfee would be put into a position someday where he would be forced to, let's just say, carry the woke line, or he would be forced to apologize for something he normally doesn't apologize for, or it's very possible that he may be put in a situation that, let's just say there's a big-time disagreement, and he eventually just gives them the middle finger and walks out. Now, about those ratings. The ratings for the Pat McAfee Show on ESPN have not been good. It's as many people have feared, including myself, that there wasn't enough overlap. A lot of people are not exactly, how do I say this? Most of the people who listen to the McAfee Show are listening to it on YouTube. They're probably listening to it while they're at work, or maybe they've got it playing in the background, or maybe they're like me, somebody who works out of the house, and they've got it playing on the TV or whatever while we do our research or whatnot. That right there is typically where the Pat McAfee's main audience is at. The clips, they produce a lot of revenue because, of course, a lot of people are tuning into those clicks. A lot of people are going to see the little videos that are cut and put together by McAfee's editing staff. And, of course, people are watching those, and that's just additional revenue. So you got to ask yourself a question. If Pat McAfee was making all this money, ad revenue, endorsements, of course, he's been known to go to the WWE, do little things there, comedy shows, why in the world would he even need to go to ESPN in the first place? Well, obviously, it's because of exposure. On the surface, you're probably thinking to yourself, I guess after listening to this right here, Pat McAfee's not getting sabotaged. I think what's going on is that the heads at ESPN are just not happy with his overall show in general. I think that right there is what the hell is going on. McAfee has probably told ESPN, look, I'm going to have Darius Butler on. Look, I'm going to have Chuck Pagano on. Look, I'm going to continue to do Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays. You guys actually love Aaron. I don't see a problem here. And, of course, a lot of people at ESPN are starting to see that, look, this right here is not exactly what we've been trying to push. We are basically trying to become BET, not a sports network. I think that is what the hell is going on here. And I think McAfee's beginning to see this, which, of course, he alluded to this in another segment of this video that we're going to talk about here in a minute. But make sure you guys pay very close attention to the actual clip that did, in fact, go viral all over Twitter.
Car on the way in.
Anyways, we're very appreciative, and we understand that more people are watching this show than ever before. We're very thankful for the ESPN folks being very hospitable. Now, there are some people actively trying to sabotage us from within ESPN.
Funny.
More specifically, I believe Norby Williamson is the guy who is attempting to sabotage our program. I'm not 100% sure. That is just seemingly the only human that has information, and then somehow that information gets leaked, and it's wrong, and then it sets a narrative of what our show is, and then are we just going to combat that from a rat every single time? I don't know. But like somebody tried to get ahead of our actual ratings release with wrong numbers 12 hours beforehand. That's a sabotage attempt, and it's been happening basically this entire season from some people who didn't necessarily love the old edition of the Pat McAfee show to the ESPN family.
Sure.
There's a lot of those. We've heard them anonymously quoted in the Washington Post, in the New York Post,
Right.
in the New York Times,
Right.
in the LA Times,
Right.
in Wall Street Journal.
Right.
And they're never like, yeah, love the show.
This is awesome.
It's always like little things to try to tear us down. So even with the enemy within our own camp, somebody that I don't like that guy. That guy left me in his office for 45 minutes, no-showed me in 2018. So this guy has had zero respect for me. And in return, same thing back to him for a long time. So even with that taking place and potential PR, like we're still growing somehow.
Yep.
So we're very thankful.
Yeah.
I think we're doing it right. We're trying to do it as right as possible. We have good intentions every single time we come in here. We don't always get it right, but motherfuckers been getting it wrong for a long time in this specific field. Long time.
Every day, every single day. What do you mean? Like you said, you have the right intentions. Like we're trying to sit here and have fun and talk about sports.
Bingo.
And Connor and other stuff as well might pop in here or there.
Every now and
We can
then.
stay away from those.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to talk about them.
That's really quick. I don't really know much about Norby, but if he's up there saying, that SOB left me in his office for 45 minutes, that sounds to me like there's obviously something that irks McAfee, about Norby. Norby, of course, is the one who gave the ratings to the New York Post. So I don't think it was like he was being sabotaged. I think the New York Post simply asked for him, and Norby simply handed him over. I don't think that that's sabotage per se. I mean, it would be sabotage if maybe he held on to the ratings for later on, or maybe if he had released them prematurely or preemptively to set a bad narrative, which I don't think that's the case. I think that McAfee's name is obviously still holding up pretty well, even though a lot of people felt that he sold out when he signed the contract. I remember doing the video on that, and I remember some people in the comment section saying that they felt that he did sell out. We'll address that a little bit further later on in this video. But the thing is this right here. I don't think that sabotage is what's going on. I think that what happened in this case is that ESPN, they are frustrated with the McAfee show. And I think that Pat McAfee is frustrated with ESPN, which tells me that this situation is doomed. And it also tells me that I was correct all along, that this situation would, in fact, not work out, because in a lot of ways, it's like oil and water. These guys' brands just don't work. ESPN, and you'll hear me say it more and more again, the more and more in this video, it looks like they're trying to become BET, where Pat McAfee is trying to appeal to a much, much broader working class audience that more than likely does not want to watch ESPN anymore. The common ESPN fan is probably not going to find Pat McAfee that appealing outside of some jokes or some comedy specials or some comedy spots. They're probably not going to find him that appealing. They're not going to want to listen to him 3 or 4 hours a day. It's just the way that it is. It's just not going to work out between ESPN and Pat McAfee, and many of us did not think it was going to. However, I didn't think about it from the personality perspective. I thought about it more from the perspective of, as I may have said before, one of 3 things was going to happen. Either, number one, they were going to force Pat McAfee to walk the woke line. I don't think they really and truly have forced him to do that. But it's pretty obvious that he's fighting back against it. And option number 2 would have been that they would have been forcing him to apologize for things that he, quite frankly, was not used to apologizing for, like Aaron Rodgers having a little bit of fun at Jimmy Kimmel's expense. Or the other option, and I know I just coughed just now, the other option was that Pat McAfee would be put into a situation where they would force him to apologize or force him to walk the woke line, and Pat McAfee would say no to it. This relationship, to me, was doomed from the very start. So basically, my post-mortem analysis here is, no, I don't think they were sabotaging. But then again, at the same time, I think McAfee could be trying to get out in front with a brand new narrative, so that way it does not ruin his narrative. But then again, though, time will only tell. Before I talk about Norby, let's go back to what I said earlier. The Pat McAfee show, for the most part, is a buddy bro sports show. McAfee goes out there wearing a tank top most of the time. Boston Connor and Ty Schmidt, they typically look like a couple of regular Joes. Hammer Don is normally wearing like a sweatshirt or hood sweatshirt, ball cap. You got AJ Hawk comes on. He looks like a normal, regular, working class guy. Even though they obviously got more money than me and you in the audience. So I'm not trying to say that to knock anybody. I'm just saying these guys right here, or at least AJ Hawk and Pat McAfee, were in the NFL, so you know that they're already millionaires. And I want to say AJ Hawk actually married into a good family too. The thing is this right here. The appearance, or what they're trying to do, is they're trying to become a much, much more mainstream as far as just for normal people. It's normal people that, quite frankly, are fed up with the wokeness in sports today. So obviously, the Pat McAfee show is not going to fit the bottom line of ESPN, but yet ESPN, they obviously gave him a contract worth $85 million. And my thinking at the time was that Pat McAfee was saying, it's additional exposure. It helps me out. It helps the crew out. It helps all the young guys out. It gets them a good start. If they want to retire early and enjoy a good life, they can go right ahead and do that. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if you gave this guy $85 million, I'm pretty sure that the rest of the crew, they're all going to be pretty well handsomely paid at some point in time, especially seeing how it is that a good portion of that crew has been with him for a pretty long-standing period of time. But still, though, many people feel that Pat McAfee may have sold out when he did, in fact, sign that contract. So something that he was alluding to in one of the previous clips is actually correct. There are people out there who were upset that Pat McAfee signed that contract. I remember the first video that I did on this situation. I had some people in the comment section who were absolutely furious with Pat McAfee. Probably furious with me up to this point for not bringing up the fact that they were furious, but still at the same time, I'm addressing it out. A lot of people felt that he sold out. I personally felt that it was more of a situation that I think he had made a terrible mistake, which makes people wonder what's going to happen to him next. You see, some people believe that maybe his career is over for good, that maybe he's not going to be successful beyond ESPN. Look, let me say this real quick. The guy was getting a lot of viewership before ESPN, before that contract, and seeing how he is, obviously, the stuff at ESPN, which, by the way, we called is obviously not working out. I mean, think about it really quick. He has been the producer of his own show for a very long time. And one of the reasons why I'm going to be leaving that video from behind the line in the description box is because KC pointed something out that a lot of people don't seem to realize. Pat McAfee's never really and truly held down an actual serious job outside of being the punter for the Indianapolis Colts. He really hasn't been. This is a guy who's worked at one company, left, worked at another company, and left, worked at another company, and left. So obviously some people think that maybe Pat McAfee is the problem here, and they could, of course, be very, very well right. But still, at the same time, why in the world would you sign a contract with a company that doesn't fit your brand? Even though, obviously, Pat McAfee does not fit ESPN's brand either. It seems to me like this right here was a toxic situation, and I think it gets pretty well detailed in this next clip. Now, guys, the first half of this clip is just the guys kind of BSing about CIA, stuff like that there. But, of course, you guys figure out at the very, very end exactly what the message has always been. It's just a bunch of bros talking about sports, which is obviously something that ESPN is not down for nowadays.
Bird bomb that's going to drop. There's going to be a bird bomb this year. I know it. I can feel it in my plum.
What do you mean? What do you
an
mean
actual physical bomb?
No, not like an actual physical bomb. Like, holy hell. 500,000 birds just fell out of the sky and none of them are bleeding. What is going on?
All right. Allegedly.
Although in
I don't think the birds could sue us.
In the 1970s,
But people could, I mean, there would be some bird community.
Yep. You can look into it. In the 70s, the CIA was putting microphones and cameras in birds. And then, sure.
Yeah, okay, 4 times maybe.
Yeah. And then, it worked. And then they decided, this works. Let's not do this. No, it worked. They kept doing it.
See,
People
this is what I'm
forgot.
talking about.
It's real.
We got to remember this.
It's still, though. I understand what you're saying. The birds thing isn't the one for me to fall off.
I don't always agree with this guy. He's starting to flip me on this one.
All right, see, this what I'm
just
talking
wait.
about.
We can't have that.
That's influence right there.
Yep.
We got to remember we have that. So let's remember that we're having a good time. We're lucky to do this, obviously. Sports are amazing. They're supposed to unify. And if you look at our demo, I think we're one of the most unifying shows maybe that's ever been allowed on TV, from different political backgrounds and obviously religions, backgrounds, especially in the world that we're in right now with this whole thing. So these ratings are stupid. Who knows what they actually mean? But we're thankful that allegedly a lot of people watch our show.
Nice.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for allowing us to do this for a living. And I'll be excited 5 years from now where everything is.
Yeah.
A more working class audience, where ESPN nowadays is more of an audience that's catering towards wokesters. I said wokesters because, let's be honest, they have race baited everybody every day on First Take. They've race baited everybody on all these shows every day since 2014, 2015, probably before that. I mean, I do plan on doing a series on how it is that the media manipulates, and the first video should be out on Monday on how it is that they're using the pro wrestling model to do this. Of course, Pat McAfee's been going on with the WWE from time to time, but still at the same time, this right here is also a bit of the media, media manipulation as well. They're using the sports world to do that, to preach an agenda. McAfee does not match that. And seeing how it was that McAfee brought up, well, he talked about the what's going on today. It doesn't seem like he's a complete dunce about what's going on out there. I'm pretty sure that he understands exactly what's going on. I remember when Rogers' whole jab situation occurred, A.J. Hawk, of course, being an actual teammate of Rogers for years, said it's political. It's probably because the guys know that it is, in fact, political, that everything is political. I think that what happened here was that Pat McAfee thought that he could sign a contract with this company, get by, get some additional exposure, get these guys like Ty and Boston possible additional opportunities somewhere else, including the crew, and obviously it's not worked. But about those ratings, once again, I don't think the ratings were ever going to be high at the Pat McAfee show because Pat McAfee does not fit ESPN's model, and I think that Pat McAfee at this moment in time is doing anything and everything he can to give them an excuse to boot him out of the contract or in the agreement. Now, as far as McAfee himself, let me just put it this way here. Pat McAfee is the producer of his own show. Maybe it's best that he just produce his own show and not work for ESPN or work with another group. Maybe FanDuel someday, if they give him some actual liberties and pretty much allow him to go out there and do what it is that, because let's be honest, he does do these segments, these odd segments, so where they do a little bit of sports betting at the very end on Fridays. But still, at the same time, I think that Pat McAfee's better suited doing Pat McAfee's thing on his own. Now, will he ever get back the audience that people think people, of course, he lost because they thought he sold out? I don't know about that. But let me go ahead and say this really quick before I end this video. Do you guys remember the whole Bud Light situation? A lot of people boycotted Bud Light. Now, obviously, it's already the same thing. But the point is this right here. Had Anheuser-Busch come out and apologize for what happened, people probably would have forgiven them. They would have said that Anheuser-Busch, Bud Light, just went through a bit of a gay phase. They would have made fun of them, trolled them. After about a month or two, people would have been buying the product again, no harm, no foul, if Anheuser-Busch had simply apologized, rather than just run out a bunch of ads claiming that they were still very, very patriotic. I don't think Pat McAfee really needs to do that, but still at the same time, I'm pretty sure if Pat McAfee just come out and said, look, the contract just didn't work out. It just didn't work the way we want it to be. Obviously, I made a mistake, and obviously that right there was not who the hell I really and truly am. I tried to be who I was. It obviously did not work out. I ended up apologizing for things I normally did not, and just say, hey, look, guys, my bad. I'm back here on YouTube, or I'm over here on wherever. I'm not working for ESPN anymore. Don't bash the company or anything like that, and just simply go on about your day, and eventually people will end up forgiving him. And that right there is all for the day, guys. This video right here is obviously going to be released on Sunday. I'm going to have the first video out on the media series and how they manipulate. I'm going to try to have that out on Monday or Tuesday. Make sure you guys stick around for that. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video. It's a brand new week. And please leave your thoughts in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say. I honestly want to hear your thoughts on this matter. Please leave a comment. And I'll see you guys later.